I'm going to start the video off at chapter 3, the book of Ecclesiastes, starting at verse 16. And then we're going to soon explore that word principality that we saw in Ephesians that was related to that wickedness in high places. Well, here in Ecclesiastes, we're going to gain a greater understanding of what this is all about. Verse 16. And moreover, I saw under the sun the place of judgment, that wickedness was there, and the place of righteousness, that iniquity was there. I said in mine heart, God shall judge the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time for every purpose and for every work. I said in mine heart concerning the estate of the sons of men, that God might manifest them, that they might see that they themselves are beasts. For that which befalleth the sons of men befalleth beasts. Even one thing befalleth them. As the one dieth, so dieth the other. Yea, they all have one breath. So that a man hath no preeminence above a beast, for all is vanity. All go unto one place, all are of the dust, and all turn to dust again. Who knoweth the spirit of a man that goeth upward, and the spirit of a beast that goeth downward to the earth? Wherefore I perceive there is nothing better than that a man should rejoice in his own works, for that is his portion. For who shall bring him to see what shall be after him? What we see here in verse 18 forward, we're going to come back when we do the video series where we're at with the peculiar brothers. Absolutely relative. This first portion here is also relative, but more so to what we're immediately talking about. And as it says, and moreover I saw under the sun. Now the earth and the moon are under the sun. We know that Ephraim is considered the stone of Israel, and we see that their fiery darts are coming from this high place, their refuge, their fortress, which will be their Zion. We're going to look into this Zion, and I will show you the definition of this word, and we will see surprisingly it relates to something that we're already talking about that is going to happen to them. And you'll just have to wait for it. So it says, and moreover I saw under the sun the place of judgment. This moon place of judgment, this sin, we know that the wages of sin is death. We know that their judgment is in relation to death. It's a blood sacrifice per Isaiah chapter 34. And there are going to be many deaths as a result of it. This judgment being death is also related to Dan being the pale horse, and death is his rider. Hell follow after. We can see the very same pairing of this death and hell as it's described with wickedness and iniquity. It is describing the exact two features that are relative to this double of Babylon that's going to be given. One being the locust, the army of Joel 2, of which are now going to prepare the way for the arrival of the Antichrist, that one that wants you to believe that he's righteous, but in all reality, he is iniquitous. So, and moreover, I saw under the sun the place of judgment, that wickedness was there. This is going to cover a twofold understanding, because the earth itself is also considered under the sun. We know that the Danites, the judge of Israel, the 13th judge of Israel, are underneath this earth. They are also considered this wickedness. But per Zechariah 5, we also see the judgment that is relative to mankind's terms, being that flying roll, which is that millstone, aka rocket, in Zechariah chapter 4, I think, is also described as wickedness. And this wickedness, this wicked rocket, is being delivered to the moon with the necessary armaments to provide the millstone destruction upon our earth. So there's a whole bunch here. And moreover, I saw under the sun the place of judgment. The place of judgment is twofold, is it not? It's a two-pasture land. We see this relative to Shinar, the moon, in which the judgment comes. This judgment comes initially to release these beings from underneath, who then we see, of course, will rejudge their releasers in not so kindly of a way. So the place of judgment, wickedness is there. We can see that quoted from Ephesians as it describes this wickedness in high places. And we will see per Revelation chapter 17 who this is, who these principalities are that are bringing this judgment. So you know that the iniquitous one is relative to Apollyon, because first the locust, these wicked, appear to bring about the appearance of the iniquitous one, their AC, Enki, Apollyon, the devil, the serpent, the Nehesh. So very interesting. It's going to tell you here in Ecclesiastes that the place of judgment is full of wickedness here, and the place of perceived righteousness has been invaded, infiltrated, and imitated by this iniquitous one. From micro to macro, we see it happen on all sorts of levels with the ones that he even influences. They're also imitators and deceivers. So very interesting here. You'll just have to wait for how all this times up with what we go into in the Peculiar Brother series to understand what Jesus Christ is talking about when he says that mankind has been created both male and female in the beginning. That's going to be the very first line of Genesis. And then we see that there are also additions added to the later chapters of Genesis that do not have anything to do with the creation of the original portion of mankind, but instead the manipulation of a certain portion of mankind. You'll just have to wait for that. So now, as we go to chapter 5, we're looking at chapter 3 of Ecclesiastes, but as we move forward, the language is going to be the same. And I should start reading here at verse 9. Moreover, the profit of the earth is for all. The king himself is served by the field. He that loveth silver shall not be satisfied with silver, nor he that loveth abundance with increase. This is also vanity. When goods increase, they are increased that eat them. And what good is there to the owners thereof, saving the beholding of them with their eyes? The sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eat little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not suffer him to sleep. There is a sore evil which I have seen under the sun. Notice that's verse 13. Notice all of the other verses 13, that Ephraim is the 13th tribe of Israel, and then Dan is the 13th judge of Israel. That's no accident. Namely, riches kept for the owners thereof to their hurt. But those riches perish by evil travail. Now, as we said, this Ishtar is relative to birthing. It is that woman in travail. We see that the very birthing act that they create will be the thing that gives them the biggest problem. And it begetteth a son. That son, that is the begetting of this travail, this Enki in the flesh, is the beginning of their problems. But those riches perish by evil travail, and he begetteth a son. There is nothing in his hand. As he came forth of his mother's womb, who we know is this Ishtar concept of the sacred feminine, naked shall he return to go as he came. He shall take nothing of his labor, which he may carry away in his hand. And this also is a sore evil, that in all points as he came, so shall he go. And what profit hath he that hath labored for the wind? Now we know that in Zechariah 5 it describes them being lifted up with the wind, the wings of a stork, and then Revelation chapter 12 also describes them being lifted up with this wind situation. It's the very same thing that we saw in Hosea as he was speaking out against them in relative terms to this very same wind that they have labored for. So it describes the exact thing that we're talking about that they are seeking to do, that is in relation seek to inhabit, which is relative to the moon, which, for all intent and purposes, is related to the word Elysium. But we'll just have to go into that another time. So the mother's womb should get your interest if I can just simply show you something here real quick. And let me go ahead and see if I can find it. It's going to be chapter 9, verses 11 through 14. Let me read this, chapter 9, Hosea. Listen very, very close. As for Ephraim, their glory shall fly away like a bird from the birth, and from the womb, and from the conception. What do you think that means? Well, it means multiple things. The glory of Ephraim is going to be the privileged remnant of Ephraim that we see in Zach 5 and Rev 12 flying away in the symbolism of a bird to the land of Shinar, aka the moon is under her feet, per Rev 12. This glory, this remnant, this supposed privileged, these elite, this supposed royal descendancy. From the birth. Now, where's the birth? We know that the birth is going to be symbolically associated with the destruction of New York City, which represents the birthing fruit of this philosophical entity that Ephraim has created that concerns the original 13 colonies of the United States, as Virginia being representative of the virgin in which they seek to sacrifice, which has now fulfilled itself as commercial Babylon, the womb opening in which they need to create this blood sacrifice per Isaiah chapter 34 so that they can release these supposed locusts and at the same time bring about their fallen prince, birthing him into the material realm. As for Ephraim, their glory shall fly away like a bird from the birth, from the destruction, because it's a woman in travail. The labor pains, the birthing, the travail, the woe of this woman, they are flying away from this destruction, from the birth, and from the womb, and from the conception. Though they bring up, they are bringing up them to Avon, to that high place, this wickedness in high places, to the land of Shinar. Though they bring up their children, yet will I bereave them, that there shall not be a man left, as we know that Memphis shall bury them, that there is something that's going to happen to them on this land of Shinar, where they're going to instantly ask these rocks in the mountains to fall on them, because something is coming for them, which is the very same sword. It's the sin, it's the wages of death that are being paid to those that use this sin as a way to achieve their means. It says, though they bring up their children, yet will I bereave them, that there shall not be a man left. Now we also know that that's not the Father himself actually doing this to them. That's in relationship to the lack of knowledge and their total miscalculation of what they're actually going to commit, and the natural occurrences that are also going to take place, which is going to cause them major drama. Woe also to them when I depart from them. Ephraim, as I saw Tyrus, is planted in a pleasant place. Verse 13, it's telling you now about this pleasant place, this land of Shinar, which we will see is going to be Zion. And it's going to fulfill itself in such a unique way. I just want you to listen closely here. Ephraim, as I saw Tyrus, is planted in a pleasant place, but Ephraim shall bring forth his children to the murderer. We know that's that twofold. It's the undesirables of the nations being the millstone brought, and then at the same time it's bringing that remnant, that royal remnant that think it's so privileged, bringing them to the murderer on the moon itself. It says, give them, O Lord, what wilt thou give? Give them a miscarrying womb and dry breasts. Very important. Very, very important, because it fulfills what I'm telling you here. When we looked at chapter 5 of Ecclesiastes, as we basically saw the perfect relationship with verse 13, there is a sore evil which I have seen under the sun, namely riches kept for the owners thereof to their hurt, but those riches perish by evil travail, and he begetteth a son. Who begetteth the Son? The great laborer, Ephraim, that is really the fullness of the lost 10 tribes of Israel themselves, as which we will see in Revelation chapter 17, are fulfilled as the 10 horns. And there is nothing in his hand, which means he has nothing that he can offer the children of men, because we also know that he symbolizes the Ouroboros, and what he is an eater of himself. So out of the mouth of the eater cometh meat. He has nothing in his hand that he can offer but his own bastardized misconception of spiritual truth. As he came forth of his mother's womb, now that mother's womb, as we see now in connection to labor, everything else that is with it is perfectly fulfilled with the fullness of this understanding here in chapter 9 of Hosea, as we look very closely at verses 14. Give them, O Lord, what thou wilt give. Give them a miscarrying womb and dry breasts. Now, let's not forget what we see here concerning dry breasts. As I said, it's going to be so important when we pair it with Zion. And as we do that, we're going to prepare it also with Ezekiel chapter 19, which will also fulfill this understanding of the ephah as being a dry measure of grain, which also means darkness. We also got to understand that these principalities, the rulers of the darkness of this world, well, what is the one place that, or at least the two places that are relative to darkness on this world? Because the earth is spherical, the sun shines upon it all over continually, at least at one time or another. So there is no relative total place of darkness on the earth except under the earth, and at the same time on the dark side of the moon. Right? So this ephah, as you see in Zechariah 5, describing this cup, this measure of grain, that is this misconstrued understanding of the tares being separated from the wheat. If we all remember Jesus Christ's words as he admonishes Peter, he says, Satan seeks first to sift the wheat. And it is Satan's influence that is sifting this wheat, this remnant that believes itself to be this special elect to the land of the moon to escape this fiery judgment. But as we see, they can't escape their own actions. You can't run from yourself. Bennett, Bennett. You can't run away from yourself. You must have done something wrong. Why you can't find that place where you belong. Bennett, Bennett. Well, 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 you're running away. They can't run from themselves. They can't run from themselves, friends. So it is really all there in an incredible way. So let me just get you to kind of recap here. So much to absorb. What we've looked at, what it reveals exactly and perfectly with what I've been showing you for so long here. All right, now let us return to Ephesians so that we can look at this understanding of principalities, so that we can gain a better understanding of the video series that I did entitled Rev 11, The Two Witnesses. It's way down on my playlist. I advise any who have not seen it to watch it, and you will see the full understanding of these false nation witnesses that are bringing this judgment and plagues upon the earth, which is completely misconstrued by so many people that are talking about Revelation 11 and men breathing actual fire from their mouths as ordained by God. You'll understand that that's not true in any way, shape, or form as it is revealed by what Jesus Christ describes in his understanding of Elijah as calling the fire down from the sky to destroy men. That was not from the Father. You can see that confirmation from Elijah fire or the Spirit of truth. It's your choice. It's your choice. But you get what you choose. You choose this fire as the way to achieve your goal, well, then you shall reap it. You shall reap it nonetheless. He who kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. You thinking that Jesus ain't real? As many of you think that I'm not real? Think again. Think again. It says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world." Now, the rulers of the darknesses of this world, as I told you, I think are I think that the time just went out. I'm not sure, but let me repeat this. "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." As I said, what are the two pasture land? The two double, Babylon give unto her double. What are the two absolute dark places that are relative to this land? That place underneath the earth, the abysmal civilization underneath the North Pole that is associated with this darkness that covereth the face of the deep, that we can find in Genesis and we can find in Job chapter 38, describing this abysmal dark place in which they are being sealed in a twofold manner, both spiritually and materially. We're talking about the material descendancy that are a living generational descendancy of these remnants of the Nephilim that are so well coded as the Danites in the Hebrew Bible. That's the focus. We're not talking about those that are spirits that are sealed within the crystal. We're talking about these beings that have actually dug themselves out an apsu within the inner earth that you can see recorded within the Sumerian tablets. They are literally physically digging out this refuge place for them, this place of darkness. So it is the rulers of darkness in its full manifest. The rulers that we see are situated upon the dark side of the moon, which is relative to the darkened eye of Zechariah 11:17, as it concerns the moon having both light side and one dark side. We see the choice that they have made. They have made the choice of the dark side. They fulfill themselves as the idol shepherd that has that darkened eye, and believe it or not, they think that they dwell in the light, but no, they must stay in secret. So in reality, they're dwelling in that darkness. They're dwelling in it as they're trying to fake, and they are fake themselves out into thinking they project light. There ain't no light in racism. There ain't no light in hatred. There ain't no light in stalking and accusing and slandering your brother. But there is light in trying to find a way to get along and love one another. That's the light of the message of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So this spiritual wickedness in high places is going to rest with an important understanding of principalities. So let's take a look at it. And you guys should know about this book. And if some of you are new, I do actually have a way to explain how all this connects now, and I'm not going to show it yet. Some of you might already know. We're looking at the Rajets International Thesaurus, and this thing has got the connections in it, and there's a major reason why. I want you to look right above principality. Now, what we're we talking about in Ephesians? We're talking about this darkness. Are we not? Yeah, we are. Rulers of darkness of this world. We know that the chief ruler of darkness is who? It's the prince of darkness. Okay? He's being bound in this darkness, and he's tricking them that once he comes out in the light, well, he'll just be on the opposite side of the polarity, and he will be this light bringer. No. This being is full of darkness within and without. But it just seems to be so perfectly situated as the Prince of Darkness right above what we're talking about in principality. Notice what it says for principality. It says country or region. Countries are associated with nations. That's right. So in Revelation chapter 11, we're talking about the false nation witnesses of the world that are symbolized as the olive branches and the candlesticks. They are actually nations that have joined together in a twofold material spiritual manner to bring this judgment, plague, and fire upon the world. It is a organization and affiliation of a large grouped fraternal membership, this secret society that has now positioned itself as the leaders of the world by these fallen nations of the world that would be perfectly situated with the 10 lost tribes or the 10 lost nations of Israel. So let's just take a little deeper look here before we take a glance at Revelation chapter 17. And the way that this works, not that I really need to explain it, but it gives us the number here to look at for these two specifics. And as we do, we find out that the specifics are perfectly relative to what we're going to understand with these false nation witnesses, territorial divisions. So the territorial divisions were what? That's the main thing that is happening with the supposed tribes of Israel, that they were allotted territorial divisions. And as we can see, it is related in all sorts of ways, even in settlement, which we know that Shinar is this settlement base that they have established as their kingdom, which is going to be relative to this kingdom of heaven, which they have falsely perceived in a material way as their refuge to escape something that they're going to bring upon themselves. At the very same time, it is that field of dreams, because it's in reference to the ephah, which is a measure of grain, which is being brought to that land. This field of dreams is really a field of nightmares. As we look down at the next one, we see country and the bingo word nation, the false nation witnesses of Israel that are obsessed with dominion, but in reality, the obsession that they have is tricking them to give up their dominion to this empire of the black sun. Understand that. None of that was by accident. So to see that none of that is by accident, and that I truly mean business here with the Father's word, and the Father means business with anyone that has the ability to receive his word. And the Spirit of truth is going to guide you within that word if you've got faith. If you don't got no faith, your guidance is lacking, friends. It's lacking. Faith is the first portion of the formula to achieve this very simplistic sight of a child that you must have to understand the variables of the kingdom, both materially, the shadow kingdom, spiritually, the true light kingdom. Now we see chapter 17, which is basically entitled The Seven Dooms of Babylon. But we got to understand who is bringing about these dooms. And as we see, it is relative to a hive mind. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. And there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short pace. And the beast that was, and is not, even he is the 8th. Now that is Enki. The beast that was, which would be him in his spiritual glory and the spirit world. And then as he was not, is now, as he is sealed away, he has been bound up. Now he is that beast that is not. It says even he is the 8th, which as we see, he is trying to become this Alpha and this Omega in your land. And it says, and is of the 7th, which I told you is in relationship to the 7th chakra, of which the serpent uses in symbolism to bust the crown, which is in symbolism of the capital crown of the United States, what they're using for the preparatory geographical, geometrical, ritual sacrifice to bring about this birth that's associated with the 13 colonies that have now been formed into a philosophical virgin-like entity that they have fattened for their slaughter. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are the 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet. They have received no 1,000-year reign. They've received no glory as of yet. These 10 horns are exactly the same reference as we see with Ephraim and Manasseh as being the horns like bulls, like unicorns. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are the 10 kings. These 10 kings which would represent the lost 10 tribes of Israel being led by Ephraim, which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. Now, the mystery of the number 10. It's the lost 10 tribes, but Ephraim, in all actuality, is the 13th, and he is leading 10 other tribes. There is one tribe that is missing, that is not being led, which is the Dan. These 10 nations, which are being influenced by this royalty of Ephraim, which we see itself has now established itself a long time ago on the moon to prepare this place for the remnant, of which we now see as the established moon base of Shinar. So the 10 horns are the false nation witnesses of the world. You see them symbolically with the torn olive branch, and you can see it on the United States money. The United States money, I know I'm forgetting the time outages again. The United States money has the olive branches all around it. Now go look to the United Nations seal, and what do you see surrounding the globe in a grid-like spiderweb form? You see it surrounded in olive branches. Olive branches are symbolized with non-belief. This non-belief is in the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ, of which we see Ephraim has counted as a strange thing. So what we see is it's the 10 horns that have this hive mind, this 13 love. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is the Lord of lords and King of kings. They that are with him are called chosen and faithful. Are you with him? And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. Interesting. America means full of race. America means full of race. And it's one of the twisted ways in their doctrine of racism in which they seek to destroy America because they believe their descendancy are unclean by this admixture of race that is all bound to this mystery of Esau being this red-headed, hairy one. And now you see all the clown fast food joints from Wendy's, Burger King, and McDonald's have red-headed clowns serving you ham burgers. And of course, you know that they call Jesus the earth pig. And we know that they are really aiming the destruction at the children of the Father. The children of the Father are all, whether they believe in Jesus Christ or not. So we see that they are selecting from the progeny of men using racial doctrines of which Jesus Christ speaks out against, and we will see that within the Peculiar Brother series, that it is all going to be tied up with this slander of the ginger or the red-headed ones, which will lead us back to an archaeological discovery in ancient China of some tall red-headed ones that had this purple wool that they brought into the northern mountains of China that were some 7 foot tall. But I'm going to tell you, friends, it's being misinterpreted by these people big time, and I can explain it. So we see that these racial doctrines have caused them to bring this particular destruction amongst their own land. And as you see it now being portrayed by red-haired, hamburger-feeding you clowns, that they have had you in their sights for a very long time, and they have been mocking all of us in so many ways. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth are peoples, multitudes, and nations, and tongues. We know that the seat of this whore, at least from their perception as they want to present it to you, would be the United States. But in all reality, the seat of the whore is the entirety of ecclesiastical Babylon. But yet she is decked in the lavishness of commercial Babylon. So her true seat is ecclesiastical Babylon, which is Shinar the moon. That is why she feels free to be able to destroy the commercial portion of the material portion of which we ourselves all find our existence dependent upon the services of water, electricity, and food. And once they feel that they can destroy all this, they feel they can destroy us as well. So as this unfolds further, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. Well, that's also these peoples that are chaotic and unruly, because you've got to understand that's what the sea means in biblical terms here. When it says in Revelation, where it describes the fourth beast and he's standing upon the sands of the sea, it's also in relationship to chaotic, unruly peoples. We know that's also related to the psyops of Sandy Hook, which is now trying to reverse that feature and make you think that those chaotic, unruly peoples that are related to sand are going to be the average peoples in the United States, which they seek to destroy with this millstone, aka millstones are made from sandstone. Are they not? But we see that the true chaotic and unruly people are these actually people, the ones that are bringing the offenses, that are bringing the sandstone, the millstone, and they're going to the land of Shinar. Well, now they fulfill the double understanding of who the true chaotic, unruly people of which the whore sitteth are, these peoples, multitudes, and nations, the remnants of the nations, the elect and the select that have gone to the land of Shinar. But as we see in Ezekiel 19, as we already saw in Hosea, that this woman's breasts are going to dry up, and then Zion is going to translate in that way, and you're going to have to wait for it. So now we see, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. Now it's not the whore portion of Ishtar, ecclesiastical spiritual portion, it's the material portion that they have deceptively twisted the script upon and made you think that it's something else. So it's ecclesiastical Babylon, which is symbolized by commercial Babylon, aka the Big Apple, New York City, which represents all of the materialisms of the world, which now also represent the two towers, which fulfill themselves as the Lich Gate, which would be the fulfillment of what Golgotha is in Revelation chapter 11, as it is described as a necropolis. You know that Jesus Christ himself was crucified outside of Jerusalem, outside of the city gates, at a place called Golgotha, which literally means city of the dead or city of the skull. So as you see that they shall make war with the Lamb, the trueness of everything that they're doing has everything to do with symbolizing the macro idea of destroying the believers in Jesus Christ, even the potential believers in Jesus Christ, these poor and needy that we see that are scattered all over the globe, that are yearning for truth. But yet these men deny it. They deny it. So the 10 horns are the one they're going to bring the fire. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. Twofold meaning for Rev 17, for God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. Well, that would be the God of this world, the fallen prince of this world, who has influenced the desires of their heart in a material way. And at the same time, it is the ultimate working out of the Father himself, which through his perfection, wisdom, and glory has known how this was going to unfold the entirety of the time. Describing the woman, verse 18, and the woman which thou sawest is that great city. This particular portion of the woman, as it is twofold, it's her material luxury, at least the portion in which we're dependent upon. That's what they seek and destroy. That is what they're seeking to destroy. So you should understand that Babylon itself is twofold. It says here, the notion of a literal Babylon to be rebuilt on the site of ancient Babylon is in conflict with Isaiah chapter 13, verses 19 through 22. But the language of Revelation 18 seems beyond question to identify Babylon, the city of luxury, and traffic with Babylon, the ecclesiastical center, Rome. The very kings who hate ecclesiastical Babylon deplore the destruction of commercial Babylon. So we see that Babylon is divided upon two understandings, commercial and ecclesiastical Babylon. But we see the true ecclesiastical Babylon, the true city of luxury, is not going to be what they have left us here with in destruction. It's going to be what they have robbed us and brought to the supposed land of Shinar, where we see in Rev 12, that is where they're going to be fed for a particular period of time. And as we see, their crops are going to fail. So the city of luxury and traffic is double in meaning. The material, as you see, the duped version, is this material kingdom here, which they have used for the psyops and the deception to weaken your consciousness, to be able to gain control of your will. And that's exactly what these ancient mighty sons of God have even done to Israel to make all of this happen. so that the real spiritual ecclesiastical wickedness in high places, the true luxury city, is going to be that Zion Memphis temple. Of course, it is associated with Egypt as a city of luxury in itself. All right, but yet these luxuries in the same reflection are still going to be material, because at the same time they think they dwell in the light, it's not. It's the darkness, the dark side of the moon, the darkened side of the eye. They ain't inhabiting the right side of the brain like they want you to believe. So I really, really, really hope that you guys got that. Now, you need to watch these videos more than once, because it is line upon line, precept upon precept. You can't gain the initial understanding as you initially hear it until you hear the entirety and then can reflect, ponder, and even pray on it. And then as all of this adds up and the layers to one singular image, you can finally gain that totalic whole of the picture to see what it's all about. It's like the pieces to a puzzle. If you only hold one piece and look at it, it might be a puzzle of a field of flowers or a field of corn and wheat. And as you look at one piece, you just see on it wheat. But in the reality, this puzzle might have other features that are involved that you might not be able to recognize from this one piece itself. So there are features that are missing from your image of understanding until you're able to put all of these pieces together to see what the big picture is all about. This is going to hinge crucially, because you got to understand, Enki is the Lord of flowing waters, and it described that there's going to be nothing in his hand. So we also know that Enki is symbolized with the flowing vase in his hand. This supposed flowing water that he thinks he's going to be able to offer, he don't have it. He don't have it at all. So that is what we saw in Ecclesiastes describing about that one that was birthed, so to say, and he's got nothing in his hand. Well, this is going to be fulfilled with Ezekiel chapter 19, as it describes Ishtar being planted in a dry and thirsty ground. Now, as I told you, that this place is representative of Zion, and if everything that I have told you about Zion is true thus far, at least in the way that I have perceived it, then we should absolutely hope, if I am able to do what I say that I am, we just must absolutely see that Zion is going to fulfill the fractal, at least the way that I see it. Zion, the transliteration of the Hebrew Greek words that originally referred to the fortified hill of pre-Israelite Jerusalem between the Kedron and Triopian valleys. Once again, valleys, furrows. Scholars disagree as to the root meaning of the term. Of course they do. Some authorities have suggested that the word was related to the Hebrew word that meant dry place or parched ground. Others relate the word to an Hebraic term that is interpreted as hillcrest or mountainous ridge. Zion is known as that hillcrest. Zion is known as that mountainous ridge that is relative to their Shinar, which is then relative to the Mount Sinai. The root word Sinai is sin, which means shining one. So this hillcrest, the material, then the spiritual, is completely relative to their fortified, supposed pleasant place, at least at this point as it's being prepared. But as we see that an east wind shall dry it up, and it will fulfill this understanding of the dry place and even the parched ground. Give me one moment. This is one of my drawings. Many of you might not know that I'm a seer, and I'm a proven seer. Whether you can understand that or not is no concern to me. If you've been following this channel long enough, you see that that's the truth. So Look what we have here with our little moon guy and his rocket. Once again, this is a drawing I did over 20 years ago. All of these drawings, the Spirit of Truth has encoded this message that is relative to every one of these scriptures that I've read to you that I did not know then, that you see now are manifesting before our eyes. There's the rocket. That is the flying roll. As you notice, it's a little moon suit. We have the little symbolism for their god, the crescent moon. We see that it is planted on this place at this particular point. What do you see? A camel. A camel is relative to what? Nomads or wanderers, which is going to connect us back to Cain as translating on as wanderers. And we're going to see that these people might not realize in all actuality what they're truly linked up with. This camel also is going to symbolize them bringing this water to the moon because it is a dry and thirsty ground. And as you know, that Ishtar is the supposed creator of the evergreen tree. And where are they going? They're seeking to escape to somewhere where what they want you to perceive is their refuge, but in all reality, it's going to be their grave. It's going to be their grave. A sudden destruction, my friends. Sudden destruction. So that's not even what I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you the one drawing or the one scribble that initiated me to knowing that all this was really real some 2 years ago, and it's what prompted me to get on video and start doing these. I want you to see just right here in the right hand corner that this is 9/11. The mushrooms represent the two tower. We're going to see that these mushrooms are going to represent the fungus of this ergot or this ergo, which is associated with a cancerous black darkness growth upon this wheat, which we see are these fraternal orders of these secret societies that have been deceived by the mystery religions themselves. We know that the plane that took down the two towers, everything is associated with this supervillain being who has a twisted, crooked step. As you see, he's got the hooked nose. Everything is going to be perfect here. Just give me 1 second here. And we know that he needed to fulfill himself through this particular descendancy. Notice who's got the hooked nose right there. And then notice the term, the expression, Sandy Hook. Look on the side of the plane, it says Asin. Assassin, Asin. It spells Nisa backwards. Nisa means event, beginning, woman. All of that is related relative to Ishtar and even the sacrifice of that particular woman that they've created for it. We know who the asses are now, and you'll see my oldest videos. Didn't know who it was then. We know that the asses are the Don keys, which they're bringing through these sacrifices. And now there's our moon. Guess what? We have that tree that is thinking it's planted upon a pleasant place, but I want you to see that their roots are withering and being dried up by their own sin. Sin, the Babylonian moon god. There is our little rocket coming from the moon to destroy the USA, which they are seeking to convince everyone is in complete satanic cahoots, and that God himself wants to kill the innocent people within it because the leaders of the country are bad. Wrong. That's a major psyops. And it takes the complexity of the revelations of the Spirit of Truth to allow simple-minded people, at least like me, to be able to conceive how all of this comes together. Because I'm not doing this. This was given to me, and I'm trying to give it to you. Take it or leave it. Now we see where the Spirit of Truth is going to back us up. Has suggested that the word was related to the Hebrew word that meant dry place or parched ground. These roots are in a parched ground, and they're exposed to the sin of their own wishes, friends. The name Zion was mentioned first in the account of David's conquest of Jerusalem. As you see, it's going to start beginning to associate itself with this Temple Solomon, which will then fulfill itself with the Temple Key of Solomon, which will then fulfill itself with the idea of the encoded architecture of Year Gods, which will now link up to Baalbek, which is in the cedars of Lebanon. And if you remember what Hosea was describing about the cedars opening up, all this is going to be in relationship to their way to get to the moon, which will also fulfill itself of the understanding of the Tower of Babel. The most common usage of Zion was to refer to the city of God in the New Age. The city of God in the New Age? Well, we know that the city of God, at least their God in their New Age, is Shinar, the field of Sharon. It says Zion was understood also to refer to the heavenly Jerusalem. Is it not that they are being lifted up into this heavenly abode as they have so sorely misconstrued it? Absolutely. It's also noted as a mountainous region, even associated with hills. We have to realize that fulfills what is said in Revelation chapter 6 as it describes them wanting the mountains and the rocks of the hills to fall upon them. When I return, I am going to show you Ezekiel 19. And we're going to talk a little more. When I return, we're going to look at Ezekiel 19. And we are going to talk a little more about this dry place. Verse 13 of chapter 19 of the book of Ezekiel. And now she is planted in the wilderness in a dry and thirsty ground. And fire is gone out of a rod of her branches. Remember the branches, the torn olive branches. Remember that these branches represent the nations. It is telling you that the fire is coming from these false nation witnesses, which have devoured her fruit. Her fruit is what? The big apple. So that she hath no strong rod to be a scepter. As we see now, this backfires, in which ultimately brings the destruction of their supposed royalty. I'll be back.